Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists episode 561. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk about movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Hey, guys.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good.
Great.
Last week, we wished everyone a Merry Christmas, and we joked about Hanukkah.
Uh-huh.
But tonight, we can actually say Happy Hanukkah.
Oh,
Happy Hanukkah.
Okay. I refuse.
Oh, okay. Well, let's discuss James and his anti-Semitism. Go.
You're abstaining?
I am.
All right.
Is
Hey,
it that kind of holiday though? Like, do Jewish people want non-Jewish people to celebrate it?
No.
Right. There you go. I'm just being respectful.
I mean, but by pointing it out, are you being respectful?
I mean, I'm just not going to be pressured into it. That's what I was saying.
No peer pressure to recognize the Jewish holidays.
All right. Well, if they wanted me to, I would, but they don't want me to. I mean, they don't care if I do or don't. So
You keep saying they.
I do.
That's the troubling
I
bit.
really do.
That's the troubling bit right there.
All right. Well, now that we're done othering people, how are you guys doing?
I was theying them. All right, not
You were
othering.
they them. Okay.
How's it going, guys?
Great.
It's Christmas time. And
It's Hanukkah time. We've already established.
Okay,
these things.
it's the holidays. All right, can we say it's the holidays?
Yes, we can say that.
It's the holidays, and thank you for spending the time during the holidays to listen to this podcast. We appreciate it. And before we jump into this week's festivities, we need to make an acknowledgement of sorts.
Okay.
And the acknowledgement is that for the first time ever, Kyle has the same microphone that Zach and James has. So he probably sounds better, although you probably won't notice unless you go back and listen to previous episodes. Kyle, say something.
Something.
Did you hear how great that sounded?
It
That's good.
was like a golden voice god resonating from the heavens,
Right.
bestowing my gift upon all you little listeners.
There was nothing like that for me.
You're nothing if not a gift, Kyle.
The gift that keeps on giving.
But we should say that this was kind of a gift to us because we didn't give this to Kyle, right? If it was up to us, if it was up to Zach and I, Kyle wouldn't have this. But
I'd be on that old $15 mic I got from Amazon 5
Right.
years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
luckily, it's not up to us. It was up to our Patreon supporters who made it happen, who finally got us all on the same good gear. So hopefully you're noticing it. Specifically, let's just name some Patreons. We got Mansouri, supporter since June 12th, 2019. Marco, supporter since December 14th, 2018. I'm not going to read all these because it's going to be depressing, but let me see the Logan has supported for a long time. Amanda, Josh Sale, Troy, Allen. I'm going to mention the person who's supported the longest. Victoria Robinson, Scotty, multi-guest on the show. Justin Eddy, the Circle of Film podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Wagner, Roger, and our oldest Patreon, who has been supporting us since April 4th, 2016. Adem. Thanks, guys.
Thanks to all those people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As of right now, other than our computers, every piece of gear we use for the podcast was paid for by Patreon listeners.
This wardrobe. Thank you, Patreon.
Well, I don't remember giving you money for that wardrobe, Kyle. What
James,
did you do?
We gotta talk later. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to tell you now, but
Perfect. But big thanks to everybody who has supported us over the years, and especially the people that continue to support us. We appreciate it. And if you want to support the podcast, we'd appreciate that too. You can do so by going to patreon.com/Cinereelists. If you're a new listener and you don't want to do that quite yet, then you should probably support us some other way. I can think of 2 ways. One is go to YouTube, search Cinereelists, find us there, subscribe, maybe watch while you listen. Might be a new experience for you. You could also leave us an Apple Podcast review. We'd appreciate that. And it costs you nothing. Just open your podcast app on your iPhone and click Cinereelists and then leave a review, which is towards the bottom, and leave us a review, 5 stars only. Thank you very much. Or you could send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. Send a comment, a question, a list suggestion, a movie suggestion, any of those kinds of things. We appreciate getting via email, and we will discuss on the podcast in a future episode. Anybody need to say anything before we get into Avatar: The Way of Water? Nope.
Let's do it.
Let's do it right after this clip.
I have to know.
Hi, Mom.
Maybe I'm just losing it out here, but I'm seeing real evidence of a systemic response on a global level. I won't use the term intelligence. It's maybe awareness is a better word. It's like the entire biosphere of Pandora is aware and capable of this cognitive response.
That was Avatar: The Way of Water, a 2020 American epic science fiction film directed by James Cameron and starring Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Sigourney Weaver, Stephen Lang, and Kate Winslet, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Avatar: The Way of Water is: Jake Sully lives with his newfound family formed on the extrasolar moon Pandora. Once a familiar threat returns, I read that with a weird inflection. Once a familiar threat returns to finish what was previously started, Jake must work with Neytiri and the army of the Na'vi race to protect their home. Wow, I could not read that sentence for some reason.
Wait,
It was-
are you
it was
reading the
formed
plot
weird.
synopsis to Avatar or Avatar 2 here?
No, that's Avatar 2.
Are you sure you have the
But
right
it's
one?
very similar to Avatar: Nothing to the first Avatar.
Nothing. The first. Yeah.
So yeah, Avatar 2 rather, a movie that has been rumored since 2014. That was its original release date,
Really?
2014. Here we are 8 years later after the original release date.
Has it been shot over this whole period of time, or was it shot way back then?
From what I understand, when they signed him up for 2014, it wasn't till like 2013 that they actually started writing things, and they sat down to write a trilogy, and the trilogy turned into 4 movies. And then
I thought it was 5.
It's 5 total.
Yeah.
They already had Avatar.
And
so they
my
wrote
understanding-
4,
yeah, but
they wrote 4 new movies.
Okay.
In 2013. Go ahead.
My understanding is they've already shot number 2, obviously, and 3.
Right. Yeah. When they shot
I already shot number
when
2.
they shot 2, they shot 3.
Sorry, when they shot 2, they also shot 3. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Hey guys, just so you know, Avatar 2 already in the can.
Yeah, and from what I've heard is depending on how this movie does, if it does poorly, then they'll release 3 in 2 years and that'll be done. And if it does really well, then they're going to release 5.
They're going to do it then. Okay. I
Interesting.
imagine this movie will do well and we will see 4 and 5.
The rumor is it has to break 2 billion in order to break even.
2 billion.
Yeah.
What
Worldwide.
and what did original Avatar make? I know it's the top of all time.
More than that.
Okay. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think like 2.4 billion is in my head.
Okay, so this has to be like the second or third biggest movie of all time
Yeah,
for them to
top
make
5.
4 or 5. Got it.
Yeah, it
Jeff.
has to be top 5.
Okay.
$2 billion to
To
break
break even.
even. That does not sound right.
That is what reporting is saying. Like if you like read our journalists about it.
The math for that doesn't. Okay. So traditional math that I've heard is you take the reported budget, you double it for marketing. That's your break even point.
Right.
So
$1 billion to make the movie and then another $1 billion to market it. And here
which
we
it
go.
didn't
2
cost them $1 billion to make the movie. That's why 2 seems insane to me.
A little high. Yeah.
Wikipedia has the budget between $350 and $460 million, which is a lot of money, but sounds like it could possibly be realistic. That would make, like, let's take the high end of that 460 and double that. That's still less than $1 billion.
Sure.
Before
Well,
you're
this is
breaking
just straight out of James Cameron's mouth.
Yeah.
This is what he says it needs to make to break even.
I think that's just James Cameron saying this one's got to do better than the last one.
That may be an
in his mind,
exaggeration.
that
Right.
means break even.
I mean, maybe he's just trying to manifest 2 Bs. So he's sending out to the universe. Like, hey, we need 2 Bs, everyone.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd love to see the math on that, and I'm sure we never will.
The original made $2.9 billion.
Okay.
Nearly $3 billion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's now the most or the biggest international box office movie of all time again, I believe.
Again, it surpassed Avengers.
On re-release.
Apparently China likes Avatar a lot.
Yes.
Right. Well, isn't that how they got ahead of Endgame? Is after Endgame took the #1 spot, there was a re-release of Avatar in China. It made like another 100 million. And they said, good. All right. Now we're #1 again.
Yeah. I know they re-released it here and it made decent money considering it's a re-release of a movie that's over 10 years old. But
Yep.
Yeah. But it did have a lower than expected weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
Lower than expected, but I did
was the
read that. So they're saying it made 134 million, which is 60 million more than Avatar 1. So
In its
lower
first
than
week.
expected, but more than the movie that made 3 billion.
Avatar 1 only made 70 million its first weekend.
Right.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's the 6th best December opening ever. It ties Batman or The Batman for the 5th best opening of 2022. So it's only the 5th biggest of 2022. It's the 2nd best opening ever for a sequel to an original film domestically.
Nice. There's no like other big blockbusters coming out until February. So
Yeah.
it might have like legs, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's also had a $435 million global debut. So they're almost at half a B in one weekend.
Just globally. Wow.
Right. 66% of the global opening revenue came from 3D sales.
Well, so-
China sold over 99% 3D screenings.
How much did you guys pay to see in 3D?
I didn't
$7.
pay anything. Well, I mean, I paid my
How much was
monthly.
a ticket price to see in 3D?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You guys don't know?
I don't pay attention to that
I
anymore.
paid $7.
How'd you pay $7?
Because I have a Regal membership.
And James, you just use your AMC perk, whatever it's called?
My AMC covers any screening in the building, no matter what it is.
Even 3D.
3D, Dolby, IMAX, whatever I want to go see.
Well, me and the common people paid $15. I don't know about your fancy gilded. I just pay $7 for movies. I'm a member.
He didn't just pay $7. He paid the membership fee and then $7 on top of it, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
Zach can afford to pay double for movies.
He's not
Mr.
paying
Fancy
double.
Pants over there.
I
Can
would.
we talk about what format we saw the film in?
Yes.
Yes. I paid $21 for my monthly membership, and my ticket to Avatar in Dolby 3D cost $18.29.
if you had paid for it.
If I had
Even
paid
$18.
for it. So,
okay, excellent. 18.
so
All
I'm
right.
down $3 in December.
Mm-hmm.
If I hadn't seen The Fabelmans December 2nd. But I did,
Okay.
so now I'm up.
Look at you gaming the system.
Oh, that's what it's there for.
I know. It's the system. I get it.
Okay, so James, you saw it in Dolby 3D.
Dolby 3D normal frame rate.
Oh, normal frame rate.
Yeah, there was 60 frames per second or high frame rate or whatever they call it.
Oh, yeah, sure. So you opted not to see it in that.
There was only one showing and I wouldn't choose that anyway.
Gotcha. Okay.
I saw it in real 3D. I do not know the frame rate. I don't think it was an option to choose it.
Well, did you notice
It would say
a high frame rate?
You would notice if it was high frame rate.
I did not notice a high frame rate, so no. I don't care for high frame rate movies, so it probably would have stuck out to me.
I saw it at Point Orlando, which is like the real IMAX, like the
Sure.
gigantic IMAX.
The 40-foot screen.
You're rich. We get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it cost $7.
Exactly. $7 on your
And
port.
3D high frame rate.
Nice.
What did you think of the high frame rate?
Okay, so I am a person that has never seen a high frame rate movie where it wasn't utterly distracting, right? The Hobbit was ruined
Terrible. Yes.
by high frame rate.
Uh-huh.
I've seen like maybe 10 minutes of Gemini Man, and while it's like interesting as a curiosity, it's incredibly distracting. And then anytime I watch a TV and people have motion interpolation turned on,
Oh yeah.
it's awful.
Yep.
And I will say that the high frame rate on this was awesome. It was the best use of it I've ever seen. It was absolutely a plus. Like I was really happy to see it. And here's what he did. The movie is not shot in high frame rate. It switches back and forth depending on what's happening.
Oh.
So the majority of the movie is normal 24 frames a second. And then during action scenes, it switches to the high frame rate. And then if there's ever a time where they're like, the action stops, it'll switch back to the lower frame rate. And I heard James Cameron talk about this, which is the reason why I opted for it. He says that frame rate is not a format, it's a tool.
Okay.
And so he uses it in the same way, like very intentionally, whatever tells the story the best in that moment, kind of a thing. And he absolutely does it. Like, I think when they made The Hobbit, he just was like, let's shoot this in high frame rate, but he didn't make any adjustments in how he shot the lighting or the sets or anything. So everything just looks so fake and terrible. Whereas I feel like James Cameron, like, absolutely tailored every shot that it was going to be in high frame rate to make sure it would look good in high frame rate. I was super impressed. And the action scenes were pretty incredible when it would like switch over to that. It'd be like, oh wow, this is like crystal clear what's happening. Anyway, I don't like high frame rate, and I don't think I'll like it with anyone else, but James Cameron can use it anytime he wants, as far as my book goes.
I feel the same way about 3D. I don't care for 3D. Other movies I have seen in 3D have been fine, but James Cameron knows how to use 3D and how to make it, how to have it add to the actual movie and to the experience and give you that depth that I think other people just use it as a gimmick.
Yeah. This was a long movie, so there were a couple times that I had to take my glasses off just to, readjust. It kind of like has to sit over my normal glasses. It's kind of annoying. And the Dolby glasses are bigger than your typical 3D glasses, and so they like sat low on my nose and were like digging into it. Kind of annoying. And you add on, it's a 3-hour movie. But I was shocked because every time I took off my glasses, the screen wasn't all blurry. So I think maybe the 3D is doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just making everything deep or giving everything depth. I think
for
he's
no reason
selectively doing it,
Right.
especially in ideal moments. Like, if he wants you to have awe at something, then he'll kick in the 3D. But if it's just two characters talking on the screen and not a whole lot visually is going on, I think he chills it out to like almost none, even if there should be a lot of depth between foreground and background. Would not surprise me if that's what he's doing, much like he did with what you mentioned with the high frame rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's do this review in 3 parts.
Okay.
1, we've already started, which is talking about the experience of the movie. 2, spoiler free, the movie itself, the story, I mean. And then 3, we'll do spoiler. Does that sound good?
Fair.
Sounds great.
So let's finish part 1.
Yeah.
I was blown away by this movie from a technical aspect. Like, I was blown away by the first Avatar, and I rewatched it this past week, and it still looks great, even by today's standards, even though it's, 12, 13 years later. But it does at times look a little cartoony here and there. Again, in 2009, it looked amazing. Even by today's standards, you compare it to Marvel stuff, where everybody's like all rubbery when the action kicks in and stuff like that. And it's Avatar from 2009 still looks better than your typical Marvel stuff from today. But there were some shots in here where it's just a technical marvel that was not real. You know what I mean? Like, there's just super simple things. Like, there's a shot where one of the kids is holding onto one of the sea animals, and he's like grabbing the bridle of the animal, which is just like leather straps between the 2 antennas of the sea animal. And then he wraps his hand to the bridle, and it's kind of like cowboy-esque, like he's about to ride this crazy animal. And just every texture, the leather texture, the water splashing of him wrapping this thing, because he's like kind of half in the water, half not. And then he's wet and dripping. And it's like, this is a little nothing scene or shot that's on screen for like 3 seconds. And it's amazing. and the whole movie is that 3 hours of that. And it's a technical marvel. How'd you guys feel about the technical side of it?
Yeah. So I also rewatched the original Avatar. I'd only seen it once, that one time in theater. So I just want to refresh my memory. And one thing I will say is that I apparently remembered that movie perfectly because rewatching it again, it all felt extremely familiar.
There's not a lot to that first Avatar movie plot wise, so there's not a lot to forget.
Sure. But I will say, watching this movie, I was also blown away by how well the computer graphics were done. And I'll give an example. You have, humans interacting with CG characters, like motion captured Na'vi or whatever. And there was not a single frame of this film where it felt like actual humans weren't interacting with actual Na'vi. Like, there was never a moment where it felt artificial or like they're not actually talking to each other or like something's out of place here. It felt like James Cameron flew to Pandora and shot this film.
Yep.
It just when you see how much action happens in this movie, the technical aspect of like how this was even created blows my mind because it's so seamless.
Mm-hmm.
The other example, is Lord of the Rings, right? Where you have tons of things composited together and that kind of thing. But this is absolutely better than what Lord of the Rings was able to accomplish as far as like seamlessly putting all these elements together.
Yeah. It's so unique. I think that's the difference is like, it's not a live action movie, obviously. And it's also not an animated movie. It's like this weird middle ground that, you have a Marvel movie or mostly comic book movies where you have these digital characters that come in and out. I mean, when you stop and think that like Iron Man hasn't worn a suit on screen in like almost a decade, that's kind of impressive because you do forget that what you're seeing is like somebody in a mocap suit whenever he's on screen, even when he's walking around without the helmet on, like that suit in a normal room is all digital. So that we have had impressive effects, but this is just so much of it And it's the reverse. It's like you're integrating live action into live action with a skin on top.
Yeah.
it's wild.
And I have never seen people swimming look as real as it looked in this.
There are times where I was thinking, was this shot underwater, or
Yeah.
was this just shot in a studio and they just made it look like
No,
people
it
were
was
underwater? So
It was shot underwater. Every one of the like kids had to learn how to deep sea dive.
so every underwater scene was actually underwater.
Maybe not every, but like
yeah, I'm sure there were a couple.
it was
that weren't,
motion
but-
captured underwater.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
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 I don't
They
know
were
if I have
free diving, not deep sea diving.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
I don't know
I
if I have a
understand.
ton to add on the technical aspect. I also rewatched Avatar in the last week. Pretty much holds up graphics wise. A couple of things here and there look a little cartoony, but overall, like, looks impressive. Blown away by 3D back then. Impressed by 3D this time. I don't think I was quite as blown away this time, just because I'd seen it before and I'd seen it done well with Avatar. But I agree with you, Zach. You could have told me this was shot on Pandora with actual Na'vi, and I'm like, yeah, I believe that. He flew out there because when you watch this movie, especially when you're seeing just the Na'vi, when you see them interact with humans, you remember, oh yeah, these are 12-foot tall, 10-foot tall creatures. But when there's interacting with each other, this kind of look like tall, skinny humanoids interacting with each other, and you
Yeah.
just kind of think, your brain's like, oh yeah, there's some makeup, right? They're painted blue, they got nose ridges on, add a tail in there, whatever, and you forget that you're watching motion captured characters doing all this. And right, who knows what the set was, what the studio was. It's so seamless that there's really no way to tell what's real and what is digital. It just all looks real.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? I couldn't tell or not. The original character design of the Na'vi in the first Avatar always struck me as just a little like kind of gangly, like very like kind of thin and disproportionate, obviously intentionally, right?
Right,
But
yeah.
like this movie, it felt a little bit like he slightly tweaked their proportions so they're a little bit less gangly. Did you get that impression too, or do they feel exactly the same? They didn't tweak the character design at all.
So the Jake Sully's avatar, like the avatars were always a little bit more muscular than the Na'vi to kind of show that humanoid aspect of them. And we didn't see a ton of the forest Na'vi. We spent a lot more time with these sea Na'vi, who seemed to be also a bit more muscular too. So I do wonder if he did tweak them to make them look a little less slender and give them a little bit more human proportions.
I didn't notice.
Okay.
But I wasn't paying attention either.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But I'm curious to know. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, he tweaked the logo. So
The Avatar logo?
yes, he tweaked the Avatar logo.
Oh,
I didn't notice any
missed that.
papyrus this time.
Yeah, well, it's still papyrus. All the locations are
Yeah.
pure papyrus, but the logo itself they've tweaked to customize it so that it's not
Nice.
pure papyrus anymore.
Nice.
So, anything else on the technical, or can we move on to the story?
On a technical aspect, would we all give this 5 stars?
I would. It's the most
Okay.
technically amazing looking movie I've ever seen.
Right.
And not just looking like people had to make this. Like, right,
Yeah.
it's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you gave me 8 years and a team, I couldn't have made this.
I wouldn't even have thought to make it.
Oh, and what about Sigourney Weaver playing a kid?
I
didn't love
liked
that,
that.
so we'll talk about it.
Okay. All right.
To me, that's a story thing, less of a technical thing.
Sure.
Okay. But it's still impressive that like this, aging woman has plays a kid and seems like a kid and is with other kids, and I don't know. I was impressed by that.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder. So her being a kid, she's shorter than the adults, and obviously Sigourney Weaver is an adult and is pretty tall too for
Mhm.
an adult. So with this being motion cap, did they film all her stuff separately? Like, how did they get that proportion correct of having her playing this not fully grown Na'vi next to the Na'vi?
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I mean, you just
probably
have when
digital
you
effects.
when you motion capture somebody, you capture them at whatever their natural height is, and then you
Yeah.
just scale it down.
just to scale it down, then okay.
Yeah. So the top of your head and the bottom of your feet are the same height as everybody else, and you're done. Throw the skin on it.
But like,
Yeah,
was
he's
she
probably
wearing
more
like a yeah,
stuff,
right?
but
Was she
yeah.
wearing like a belt of like when you're talking to Sigourney Weaver, look at her navel because that's where her eyeline's going to be, or like if you're going to hand the character something, hand it down. Like they're obviously when it's just like a group of them running, yeah, scale her down, no problem. But when she's interacting with full size Na'vi, that's when I was starting to wonder. Is this a double? Like, how much of I don't know. I'm just curious on that.
Again,
it doesn't ruin the movie for me, but
Data points. So if you're looking straight,
Yeah.
and you should be looking down, you adjust the data points.
so you just adjust the actual motion capture to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You don't that's the beauty of it. You don't have to go reshoot it. You don't have to worry about the eye lines. As long as they're looking in the general right direction, you can make adjustments to, make them look however you want.
So
In
he just
theory-
Pro Tools the whole thing.
In theory, you could add, a complete left-hand look if you wanted to at the end of it. You just capture them looking around, and then you combine that data into the other data, and you're there.
Man, you make movie making sounds like so much fun.
I mean, it's there's a reason why those credits were like 12 minutes long. I've never seen more names on the screen at once.
Did you guys stay for the credits?
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
The whole thing? Was there anything at the end?
I don't
No.
normally, but like that kind of movie, I was just
Okay.
like, I have to see who worked on this. I'm not,
Yeah.
there's just too many names for you to even
Right.
take it in. But I feel as a fan of film, it's the right thing to do. It's to look
Yeah,
at
that's
all
how I
those
feel.
names in Marvel when you're
Yeah.
wowed by
There's
something.
no way Kyle stayed. He rushed to the bathroom.
I did not rush to the bathroom because
Oh,
I
that's 'cause
went
you took-
during the movie.
During the movie.
Yeah.
I also went during the movie.
Thank you,
I will
James.
admit
Oh my
it.
goodness.
I had
Don't
to pee.
bladder shame me, Zach.
Oh my goodness. What parts did you miss? Well, I guess we'll talk about it later.
I don't think it's any
You don't even
significant because I
Yeah.
afterwards I read the Wikipedia just to see did I miss anything, and no, there's nothing in the Wikipedia was any different than what I saw on screen.
I'm happy to reveal when I went, and we'll see if Kyle and I synced bladders.
I hear if you podcast for long enough, eventually your bladders do sync up.
I did not leave during the movie, so I guess I'm the only one here who has watched Avatar: The Way of Water,
Well,
the director's cut.
Plus, the whole movie's about water. I mean, come on.
yeah, right. It's like after
It's like you got to pee, and there's like splashing all over the screen. It's like
You guys are
recipe for a
crazy.
disaster.
Well, having
guys are
seen 3 hours and 13 minutes of this 3 hour and 14-minute movie, I guess I can't say I've seen the whole thing either. My bad. All right.
Okay. So 5 stars for the look. Is that what we all gave it? 5 stars for the look?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk story. Spoiler free. What'd you guys think of the story of Avatar: The Way of Water?
So going into this movie, my question was, will seeing The Way of Water reignite my interest in the Avatar series? Because we
Mhm.
have 3 more of these hopefully coming out. Not hopefully, planned on coming out at some point. Does this movie make me care to want to see more of them? And technically, yes, this movie makes me want to see more of these just because I want to be amazed by this technical marvel. Story-wise, we kind of were given the same story as the first Avatar. At least maybe the same back half story as the first Avatar, now stretch over into 3 hours. With a lot of the same characters. And this movie left us in a place where it's definitely setting up things to happen down the road. And I'm a little concerned that we're going to just keep retelling the same story movie to movie. I was hoping that we get some more Pandora world building, which we did. And like we spent a lot of time with these water Na'vi. I don't know I can't remember what their name were. And that was really neat. And I liked how they were physically a little bit different. Like their tails were different. They had like different shaped arms to give them like almost
Yeah,
a
they
flipper
had, like,
effect.
physical adaptations to their environment. Yeah.
Right, which I thought was really, really cool, and I mean, well thought out by James Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
But we still got down to the fact that we're fighting the sky people who are back to steal resources, and we're getting some of the same bad guys that we saw the first time around. And I just don't know if I want to keep watching Na'vi fighting humans over and over and over again. And I just kind of feel like that's the direction we're going right now. And I'm really hoping that James Cameron, story-wise, has more in his back pocket on the world of Pandora besides the humans are coming. How do we stop them?
Okay.
I think I asked the same question. I like the first Avatar, but it's been a long time. And it's not like we've gotten a steady drip of Avatar content since 2009 to today. It's like pretty much disappeared culturally and in my brain.
Yeah.
For
Unless
the most
you go
part.
to Disney World.
Yeah.
That's it.
I rode the ride maybe 2 years ago. It also is a technical marvel, like the physical ride itself and the film they play during the ride. It's a technical marvel. And you should definitely check that out if you ever get the opportunity. But it's not enough for me to be like, oh, yeah, Pandora, let's go. Avatar.
5 more of these.
Yeah, if you don't feed the beast, then people forget. And I think I forgot how much I did like the original movie. And this one has way more like traditional James Cameron stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really dug the combination of like floofy, earthy tree hugger stuff that was in the original Avatar. The combination of that with like Terminator, Aliens, Space Marine.
Space Marine, yeah.
Yeah,
a lot of that.
A little bit of horror here and there. A little Titanic here and there. Like it's basically like he's just going. With Avatar, it's like he tried to make something completely original, even to him. And then with Avatar 2, he was like, let's take what I introduced, my new bag of tricks with Avatar, and then introduce all my old bag of tricks into that series and see what we come up with. And that really worked for me. The first half of this movie is a lot of Avatar 1 style stuff, and the back half is a lot of the rest of James Cameron's filmography stuff. And I ate it up. So I'm in.
So you're in. This movie, you're excited for more.
I have issues for sure. Some of the
James, we all know you have issues.
Some of the with the movie. Some of the characters bothered me. The Sigourney Weaver character bothered me. The spider character bothered me. I understand why they're there. I hope their inclusion pays off, but I could have done without them. Also, the kids are like the Sully kids are pretty dumb, I would say.
That younger daughter was
kids.
just there to get in trouble. Like she even makes a joke about it at one point. But I was like, how many times do they need to save this little girl? Like just leave her behind.
Yeah. It seemed like for a good half an hour, this movie was just the kids doing the same thing over and over again to the same bad result. And I also don't like that they gave like pretty strong characterization to one kid and not the other. And then they wanted you to be all emotional at some point in the movie that we can talk about in spoilers. And it just felt like they built it the wrong way. Well, they didn't do enough for it to pay off, I think, the way they wanted it to. But I really like that we didn't have to see Sam Worthington try to act a bunch. That was great.
The less actual Sam Worthington you have to see in this movie, the better. Which he's not. I mean, he's in it, but
he's fine.
Human him is not in it whatsoever.
Yeah. But I did, since Sam Worthington wasn't in it much, that meant we didn't get as much Zoe Saldana. And the parts where she's in it, especially towards the end, were awesome.
Yeah.
So I kind of wish you had more of that in the first half. But I understood. Yeah. I understood, like, in the first half, it was like Jake and Natiri. they now have this family they have to protect, and now we're going to tell the kids' story a little bit, and then back half is, family adventure. What'd you think about it, Zach?
Okay, so if the rubric we're starting the discussion off with is, after a decade, do we care anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Did this movie make us care again? That kind of thing, right? I saw Avatar. Obviously, it was really fun to see in the theater, but I could care less about the story of Avatar. And it immediately left the cultural conversation.
Yep.
Forever. And so when I, it's just a joke that 4 more are coming a decade later. Who cares about anything about Avatar, right? So did this movie make me care about the Avatar universe? Absolutely. Absolutely it did. I loved the movie. I love where it took us. It completely got me excited about the universe in a way that the first one did not. I hope the third one in 2 years comes out. I hope the fourth and the fifth one come out. I think this is a great use of James Cameron's time because, like James said, he's now incorporating into this universe all of his favorite things. The things that make James Cameron movies so just awesome. And he is doing them, so he's incorporating them really well. Like they fit. They're not out of place. And it just makes for a really, really fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
And, Kyle, you said it's kind of a rehash of the story in Avatar. I definitely can see the plot point parallels, where you can draw lines between different characters and plot points and stuff like that. But for me, in the first movie, I just didn't care that much. And in this movie, I cared a whole lot more. And I thought the twist on the plot points was just a much more interesting way to talk about it. So I loved that they had been successful in the first movie with the revolution. And now this is what happens after the revolution, right? Every movie stops at, we just won the war, and we live happily ever after, right? But you don't live happily ever after. Like the enemy regroups and comes again.
World War II happens.
What do you do now? Yeah. And then, World War II happens, right? Which, spoiler alert, really overshadows World War I, in the history books. And, but this time Jake has a family, right? He's not the same guy that he was in Avatar. He's got 4 kids that he has to worry about. And so his decision-making is totally different. And I love that we go and expand the world to the sea people, it's so interesting seeing those differences. They're green and not blue, and those cultural differences among them and stuff like that. It was super fun. And we get to experience some of those same things again, like when he was taming the flying creatures, now he's taming the sea creatures. But I loved seeing it again. And I don't think movie 3 is going to be they go to the desert Na'vi and then
I don't know.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I think movie 3 is lava, movie 4 is desert.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
Movie
Although
5,
eventually
Captain
they're
Planet
going
shows up and the whole thing's done.
Pandora's the moon, so eventually they're going to the main planet.
No,
that's going to be cool to see.
It's a gas giant, so I don't think they can walk on it.
Oh, is it a gas giant?
It's a gas giant, yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
All right. Man, when I found out that some of the planets in our solar system are just gas giants and not actually rocks, that's very disappointing. I feel like we're misled about planets. That Jupiter is gas. It's just a ball of gas. You can't land on Jupiter.
Well,
that's frustrating.
But not the only reason, it's still a body that is orbiting the sun. It still has a mass and gravity and layers and a core. It's just not a terrestrial planet as we live on.
I want my idea of planets with things you could land on eventually, right? In the same way that I want my dinosaurs to not have feathers. And it's disappointing when you start finding out that some of these dinosaurs had feathers and they look like chickens. And you're like, okay, that's fine, but
Keep it to
I
yourself.
enjoyed it better when they didn't have feathers and when you could eventually land on them. Right?
What I like about the idea of a gas giant is it's got
You prefer gas giants.
well, it's got a crap ton of moons, right? Gas giants, because they're so big, they attract a lot more smaller bodies to orbit them. And
But
then
not because they're gas. They could be terrestrial and still have moons.
I don't. Do we know what is the largest in the universe? What is the largest terrestrial planet, or is there only so big a planet can be before it just can't hold itself?
What? No. The bigger, the more it can hold itself.
No, like would its mass be too much that it couldn't?
To what?
That would, I don't know, would crush itself, implode upon itself, just smash down to a tiny little
Yeah.
black hole. I don't know.
Anyway.
Anyway.
So Pandora.
I was going to say this
So-
is way off topic.
No, I want to talk
and-
gas giants some more. Hey, Jupiter
I will also say
has a
this.
storm that just keeps going for like eternity.
Of course,
How
because the entire
cool is
planet is
that?
one. No, it's not cool. Because the whole planet is one big wind. It's a gas.
One
So,
big
like,
wind.
of course, there's a storm. Where does the storm have anywhere to go? It's just
It's
a circus. It's just wind.
it's not like a cloud where you just kind of like, oh, am I on the planet now? Like, wait, like it's
It's-
not fog. It's
It's kind of like that.
It's
It just
not
gets
kinda
denser and denser.
all right. Yeah, you just go fly out to Jupiter and then pass through like its fog and be like, wait, what happens? Am I on the
Oh
other
no,
side
the gravity
now?
would
You're right.
would crush
You'll
you.
be
and
crushed
The
on the
crippling
inside.
heat. Anyways.
Okay.
I cared about these characters. Especially I cared about the relationship between the two older kids, and I definitely cared about the main second born that we spent the most time with. I definitely cared about him. I liked him a lot. I loved some of the creatures we get to meet. I was on board.
I'm intrigued by the Sigourney Weaver character.
I'm intrigued by what that she represents. Yes.
Right. And I mean, this definitely has some serial setup going on where they're planting ideas in this movie, which may be answered in hopefully farther movies, which kind of bummed me out too, because like they started planting these ideas and I was waiting for a reveal. And like I did go to the bathroom at one point and I came back, I'm like, oh, did I miss something? I don't think I missed anything. Things were not revealed. They were just
During spoilers, can you tell us both like where you guys went to the bathroom? I
Yeah.
just want to know what you missed. Okay.
I'll try and honestly, there was water and talking was happening. So it was some point where there was water and talking.
What?
So you don't even know.
I can tell you specifically what was happening as I walked out, and it was still happening when I got back.
Okay. I will try my best to tell you.
Okay.
I found, so this movie's 3.5 hours long, or 3 hours, 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Totally agree. Like that last hour is James Cameron at its finest. And I was hooked.
And it's one set
for all
piece.
that.
It's one set piece.
Right. Yeah. Once that
It
battle
goes
gets
from day to
going,
night. It's great.
it's cool. The middle where we're getting to know the water people more and the kids are learning about it, that for me got a little long.
Mhm.
Of okay, we're in the water and we're swimming again and this is beautiful. And we got 45 minutes of that. And after a while I was like, okay, we can start moving this forward a little bit. Like I think you've established what you want to do. And it felt a little bit like James Cameron was just sort of reveling in his own world at that point. Like things were being moved along and there were story points happening. But it just got a little long in the middle of let's be in the water for me.
See, I actually loved that the movie did that. It took time to stop the movie and just be in awe and wonder of the visuals in the world. And I thought that was so cool. That's like why I want to go to a huge theater and stare at a gigantic screen in 3D, like to see these images and be in the same awe that the characters are in. Like I love that he gave us that.
I guess it felt like a VFX highlight reel for a while of like, look what I can do at night. Look what I do during the day. Look what I can do with bioluminescence. And it was loosely connected to the movie. At that point, it just felt more like I was watching the highlight reel at like a
I
trade
gotcha.
show or something.
I guess it put me in the place of the characters, right?
Yeah.
They were experiencing things for the first time as I was. I was totally on board.
No, it looked great, and I love like the bioluminescence of it all is awesome. I love how the Na'vi glow at night. I don't know if they did that in the first Avatar movie, or maybe it was less pronounced, but like in this one, they're like parts of them just glow, and it's so cool. And I've like usually I don't want to see nighttime in a VFX heavy movie because nighttime's when they start to cheat things, but James Cameron does not cheat with nighttime in these movies. Like he still lights things and makes everything look super clear.
Especially in high frame rate.
So you say.
Yeah, I agree that I think there's probably 10 minutes that could go for sure of like the sea life section, I would say. which coincides with the kids screwing up section. I feel like the kids screwing up, he tried to establish a pattern of this.
Mhm.
And there's probably like 3 or 4 times when one particular child is like not doing what he's told, and then it turns out okay, but it could have been awful. And I feel like they do that at least one time too many. Like, I got it. The kid's a little bit of a loose cannon. And so you could add one less and it would have been a little shorter. Again, didn't ruin my experience with the movie because even the stuff that was unnecessary looked amazing and that entertained me. So even if the story wasn't moving, it was they were still putting cool things on the screen. But I'm not sure at home without the benefit of it being fresh, it being in 3D, it being on a huge screen, will that middle section play as well the second or third time over when you're just kind of like, okay, yep, I get it. Let's move on.
What's
I'm
the
not sure it
chance you guys
but
will watch this movie at home?
I'll watch it. I'll watch it again in a theater. Probably not 3D. Not that I had a problem with the 3D. I've seen it once. I don't really need to see it in 3D again. And then I'll watch it once at home. I think that's what I did with the original Avatar.
Okay.
I'll probably go and see it in the theater again.
Mhm.
And then I don't know if I'll watch it at home or not. I'm not sure.
I can see myself seeing the theater again before the next one comes out. If they do like a re-release of Way of Water.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know if I need to see it at home. Maybe watch that last hour at home because that was pretty cool.
Nice. So how much do you think we can talk about the Sigourney Weaver character?
I think
Let me
we should
just say
save
this.
that for spoilers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just say this. Going back to the technical, and maybe this is performance more than technical. I was distracted by the young Sigourney Weaver. And not because she didn't look like a young Sigourney Weaver. She absolutely did. It's the voice coming from a person's face that looks so close. And I don't know why. I do know why. Sam Worthington, I don't watch him enough. So when I see Jake Sully, who looks like Sam Worthington, it all makes sense to me. When I see Zoe Saldana as Neytiri, I don't see Neytiri and think that's Zoe Saldana for some reason. It's Zoe Saldana's voice. She's putting on like a Na'vi accent, so it's her obviously, but it's not at the same time. With that Sigourney Weaver character, it's like a 14-year-old version of her. And it was a little creepy, I would say.
What I've
and a little
noticed-
weird and a little like I had cognitive dissonance or whatever you call it, where I couldn't put it together in my brain that this was a person and not like a computer graphic. And there was plenty of other things that were happening in the movie that should have been hard for me to make that leap on, and I had no problem with it. Only with her did I have a problem with it. I think it's because I'm familiar with her as a person, as an adult. I've never even known her as a young person because I've never seen a movie with her as a young person. So what were you going to say, Kyle?
What I've noticed about her avatar versus the other ones, like Jake Sully and even some of the avatars we saw from the other side, is like most avatars have the more broad Na'vi nose. Like Na'vi have sort of like a rectangular nose, like it goes right up to their eye sockets. And with Sigourney Weaver's Na'vi or avatar, and this was in the first movie too, as well as this one, it's her nose. Like it's a much more humanoid, like, you know, wide at the bottom, narrow bridge. And I think that's part of maybe the uncanny valleyness of that character is like she has just enough humanoid facial features and just enough that look like Sigourney Weaver where you feel like, oh, I'm watching an animated Sigourney Weaver and not like, right, Sam Worthington, I don't know what he looks like. So whatever. He looks like a Na'vi. So I agree. I think because her face is familiar and because of how they designed her avatar for whatever reason to look so much like her, there is that cognitive dissonance going on. That being said, I liked her performance as a teenage girl. Like I thought she captured it very well.
I like story-wise what she represents in the movie, which we'll get into, but I was too distracted to be able to give an opinion on her performance because I was just like, yeah, I had a hard time when she was on screen.
One thing I will agree with James on that he mentioned earlier, his second big thing that he didn't so much like was Spider.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed Spider as a character. Like I'm glad he's in this film and what he represents and the complications that he adds to the plot and I think all of that is super interesting. But he's a human character that lives with a Na'vi, and he dresses like a Na'vi, and so it's essentially just this teenage kid in a loincloth the whole movie, and he looks incredibly out of place.
He's Tarzan.
Yeah, he's Tarzan.
It just looks like they threw in like a Tarzan into this movie in a way, and he's got like his like white dreadlocks or whatever. It just looks a little bit like Land of the Lost, you know? Like just it's maybe the cheesiest part of this movie is just how he looked, and he's just like in a loincloth having conversations with real normal people. And like they never dress it, like it's just odd. So that was maybe the most distracting thing is just how out of place he felt in this movie. From a character design perspective. I really loved the role he played in the plot. But.
Yeah, and I did like some of the performance aspects that they had. I mean, this is probably just planning more than that actor's decisions or anything, but whenever the Na'vi were like in a shot, they would have him standing on things as much as possible so that he could be as tall as them.
Right.
Yeah.
But they like naturally had the character just kind of do it. There's like no pomp and circumstance to it. I'm sure on rewatch, I'll notice it a lot more because I noticed it like 2 or 3 times in my first watch. And I was like, that's kind of interesting that he's like the one character who cares to be eye level with them. All the other humans are perfectly happy to be on the ground and looking up to them.
You know, James, if you watch this in 60 frames per second, you'll see that he actually has a little step stool he carries with him at all times. It just unfolds it, but you can't see it in 24. It's just too.
Sure. I got to pay $7 for that.
$7 for the step stool shot. You got it.
Recommended. Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed like all the, I mean, not that you can really tell. You could tell that Edie Falco from The Sopranos was in the movie. She plays a human character, but like CCH Pounder from The Shield is in this, but she plays a Na'vi. I didn't know that until the credits rolled.
She's in the first movie too.
Was she?
Yeah, she I mean, because that's always that's Natiri's mom.
You know who we didn't talk about performance-wise? Stephen Lang, who plays like the main bad guy.
Yeah.
Is that a spoiler?
I want to save him for spoiler. Yeah.
Is the fact that he's in the movie a spoiler?
You can see on IMDb that he's in the movie. Okay. So I think the fact of how he's in the movie is a spoiler. So we should not really talk about him too much.
Okay.
I mean, because he died in the first movie.
Correct.
Sure.
That's why I wasn't kind of mentioning it.
Yeah.
There's also a cameo that I want, a very minor cameo that I want to talk about.
Is it
spoiler?
Also a first movie person?
No.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that was Kate Winslet in this movie.
I didn't realize that either until
afterwards.
Yeah.
I remembered halfway through she was in this movie, once I knew, like once I figured out which character she was, you could kind of see, oh, that looks like her, at least like the lower half of her face.
Okay.
Mhm.
But I don't think I would have figured it out if I had not
Okay.
known.
Nice.
Cool. We want to roll into spoilers.
Let's do like final thoughts, spoiler free, and then we'll go into spoilers with our Letterboxd rankings. I really enjoyed it. I do think it has pacing problems, but the visuals far make up for any quibble I have here or there. The only thing that didn't work for me technical is more like the artistic side of technical with the Sigourney Weaver character. Had nothing to do with what they were doing on screen, more just what my brain was trying to comprehend. And so maybe on rewatch it'll be better. But overall, it's a more entertaining story. There's more characters. There's far more to latch onto. It looks better. It moves faster. And it feels more like the Cameron films that I grew up with. And for those reasons, I give it 5 stars.
Oh my God. Sorry.
I liked it way better than the first one. I agree with what James said. It looks better. The story's more engaging. The characters, I think, are more engaging. We get to see more of the world. The action's awesome. James Cameron is more James Cameron in this. It totally got me excited about the Avatar world in a way that I hadn't been before. So for me, it's also 5 stars.
You guys are. What movie did you guys watch?
Kyle? 2 stars.
5 stars, obviously. No, no, not 2 stars. No. I mean, I somewhat agree with you guys on all points. I like this more than Avatar.
Uh-huh.
I'm excited to see technically where Cameron's going.
Mm-hmm.
I wish he had given me a more original story than a lot of beats that we hit in the first Avatar movie. A lot of this has to come with the bad guy, which we'll talk in spoiler. I think one reason we can't get into what bothered me is because it's very spoilery.
Okay.
So we'll get into that. So I guess my biggest question is, James Cameron, what else you got? I've seen Pandora. I've seen them fighting humans. Where else are you going to take me on this story? And right now, I'm a little skeptical that he doesn't have a lot more story up his sleeve. I think he's got a lot more technical up his sleeve. I need more story, though. So I'm at a 3.5.
Okay. 2 5s and a 3.5. Have we ever had a full, with all 3 of us, full 5 stars? I don't think we have.
No, I think there's like 11 movies that we both give 3 stars. But they're not ones.
No.
we've covered
I'm
on the
talking
show.
about since Kyle joined, all 3 of us 5 stars.
No.
No, I doubt.
I don't think so
No.
either.
No.
I think we're still
But-
waiting for that.
I don't know
No.
other movies that both, well, obviously besides this one. Never mind. Other movies that you guys have rated that you've both given 5 stars to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whiplash, probably. I'm
yeah,
sure
so-
there's a small handful.
If I was here in the Whiplash days,
Well, you weren't.
I wasn't there. So I don't know.
So we're still waiting.
It's not- Sorry, Kyle. Was not real.
Zach, where did you fall on everything? Oh, okay, we're off track here.
3.5 stars. So, okay, 3.5 stars.
I mean, I had a good time. I enjoyed myself. I'm
Yeah.
glad I saw this movie, and the back half was pretty incredible. But when I kind of take a step back and say, besides
For
being
sure.
visually blown away, what was I given?
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of Avatar.
You gave Fall 3.5 stars.
Yeah.
Similar experience.
I mean, 3.
Fall. You know where the 2 women are stuck at the top of the tower.
They actually were on that tower.
Story-wise-
Technical achievement being on a tower filming for that many days.
It's just interesting. You gave Fall and Avatar: Way of Water. It's both the same rating. You
Yeah.
liked them the same.
Sure.
One's not way more impressive than the other.
Well, I don't. Okay, I don't want to rank this movie just on visuals. Like I think
story. Yeah,
that's why with Avatar.
story-wise-
Hold on, no, let's back up here. I
I
saw Avatar like everyone else did in the theater. Amazing 3D. I was left. Oh my god, this movie is. You guys have to see this. You know, Megan, we have to watch this movie. It'll blow you away. Megan and I watch it at home, right, on Blu-ray, or whatever. And then she's like, "What's the big deal?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you're kind of right. Like once you take away the 3D and all that, like there's not a lot. I mean, like graphical wise, looks pretty good, but you take away all that wow factor of that movie, and there's not a lot to Avatar.
There's
So
not a lot
hope-
to it, but
Yeah.
I do think there's I'm not saying Megan was doing this or you were doing it, but I think the fact that the technical is so good makes people have the "what's the big deal" reaction.
Right.
Yeah.
When really the story is very solid and it wasn't wrapped up in those technical aspects, it would be Dances with Wolves, which is a movie that people like for its story.
Right.
It's a classically told, well-told story.
Dances with Wolves.
Or Pocahontas, another
Or
one. people
Pocahontas,
could-
yeah,
Cal,
there's-
can I ask you this question?
No, so I guess I'm just trying to take a step back from Way of Water
Mhm.
and say technically amazing. Like James Cameron can direct an action movie. He's one of the best action directors out there. Not gonna fight with any of that.
Mhm.
But did I leave this movie saying like, "Oh my god, give me more Pandora"? To be
All right,
honest,
Cal, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather watch the last hour of The Way of Water again? Or you can choose any 5 minutes from Fall. Any 5 minutes you want.
why do I have to justify this versus Fall?
I'm just curious. No, I'm just curious.
No, I don't feel like I need to justify why I like this movie the same as Fall. Like I rate a movie how I feel at the moment. Right now, I feel 3.5 on this movie.
This entire podcast is us justifying what we thought about movies.
Yeah, I'm
compared to
ju-
other movies.
No. I'm justifying.
We rank
what I
movies
think-
against each other.
No, we don't rank movies against each other. I'm not ranking
We're-
Avatar against anything
we're
else right
about-
now. I'm talking
We're
Avatar.
about to rank James Cameron's movies against each other.
Yeah, and if James Cameron directed
Directed
Fall,
Fall.
I would tell you why. I can rank those two against each other.
Okay, can we move on to spoilers?
Of course.
All right.
Of course.
If you're listening to this on a podcast app, just listen after the episode for spoilers. If you're watching this on YouTube, then click the link in the description to jump to spoilers. All right, it's time to
Let's rank some movies.
specifically the movies of James Cameron. We're ranking the films of James Cameron. I ranked all 9 of them.
Piranha also?
Yes.
Have you seen
I
it?
haven't seen it.
I have not seen it, but that doesn't keep me from ranking it.
Great. So James,
In that case, I'll rank it too.
yeah, I'll
Okay.
also rank
I
Piranha.
have 9. I have
Okay.
9. I guarantee my list is not going to be the same as your guys's.
Guarantee.
I have a
I guarantee your list isn't mine, and neither
you
is
know what?
Kyle's
I
either.
bet you all 3 of us are going to have somewhat unique lists here. I
What are
agree.
the chances all 3 of us would have the same list, Zach? Exactly.
They're high. No, I'm just saying I have a controversial list.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm trying to get across.
Uh,
I think you two will have roughly similar ones.
I don't know. He does not like Avatar: The Way of Water, so
No, he doesn't.
He didn't like
That's
the
a good
first
point.
I never
Avatar
said
either,
I didn't
so-
like it.
there's
That's
only
a good point.
there's only 9 movies to choose from, and if he doesn't like 2 of the ones that I like, then
I
Yeah.
never said I did not like Avatar: Way of Water. 3.5 stars is I liked it.
it's on the
Maybe.
rocks level of like.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
The Fall, On the Rocks, that jazz movie with Chadwick
Yeah.
Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, all the same. No difference for me whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. Same
Sure.
score as Justice League, whatever.
Yeah, Zack Snyder Justice League. That's also 3.5 hours long. Pretty
Another a
impressive.
movie you didn't like.
I never said I didn't like Justice
Yeah,
League.
you only complained about that movie.
No,
Okay.
James is the complainer about that movie.
I'm not the complainer. Everybody's the complainer about that movie. That movie sucked.
I never see. There you go. That movie sucks. Quote,
All right.
James.
Let's rank the films of James Cameron. My number 9 is Piranha 2: The Spawning, because I haven't seen it, so it's got to be at the bottom.
My number 9 is Piranha 2: The Spawning. Same reasons.
My number 9 is Piranha 2: The Spawning. Slightly different reason for you guys is I don't like an unnecessary sequel.
And Piranha was just fine as it was.
Yeah, I don't think Piranha 2: The Spawning really gave us anything new, except for the spawning part. So, number 9.
Sure.
All right.
My number 8, and I will say that the top 4 films in my list are 5-star movies. And number 8 is a really good movie. That's a 3.5. And that's the worst James Cameron movie that I've seen. So the fact that it's number 8 on my list feels wrong, but there's only 8 to choose from, and they're all good in my opinion. And so that's why The Terminator from 1984 is at number 8 on my list.
My God, James.
It's my least favorite of his 8 really good movies that I've seen.
3.5 stars.
3.5
I knew my
stars
list was
for
gonna be
The
different.
Terminator.
For the Terminator.
I like it as much as you like Avatar: The Way of Water.
That's true.
All right. Well, my number 8 is Avatar. Just plain old vanilla Avatar.
Okay.
My number 8 is Avatar.
All right.
See,
Zach,
you
so
guys
far
are in
we're 2
sync.
for 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in sync.
My number 7 is from 1994. It's True Lies. A great 4-star movie. That happens to be the 7th on my list.
My number 7 is also True Lies. I've not seen this since it came out. It's fun.
Okay. Before I say my number 7, I just want to remind you guys that we're all friends here.
All right.
We care about each other. There's no reason for any animosity.
Yeah, I have never been called out once this episode for my ranking of a subjective movie that we all get to choose for our own purposes. Never
Let's
once
rank some
have
movies.
I felt bad about it or been made to feel stupid about my ranking or told that other movies are inferior or superior in comparison to the movie we just watched today. It's been quite congenial the whole time. Zach, please proceed.
My number 7, Aliens. It's a good movie.
Quit the podcast.
Good movie.
This is the one that broke me. You guys buy me a new microphone and I'm out. Mission
My number
accomplished.
6, Avatar.
My number 6 is Titanic. This movie deserves a rewatch because I think my opinion of Titanic is my 8th grade opinion of it.
My number 6 is also Titanic.
You guys are pretty close so far.
We're 3 out of 4 so far.
Yeah. My number 5 is The Abyss. Underrated movie for sure. I watched a YouTube video that talked about how much James Cameron learned on The Abyss and how it was applied to this specific Avatar movie. It was
Oh,
fascinating.
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm convinced James Cameron will not retire until he drowns someone.
I was thinking, this is probably the last set of movies James Cameron's probably going to make, right?
He's in his late 60s, so I think this is it.
I thought he's in his 70s.
No, he was born in 54, so he's 68.
68. So let's say he made 3 more and they came out once a year, which I have serious doubts is going to happen. But supposedly they're coming out in succession. So that would make him like 74 or 73 when
I
it's
imagine he'll
over.
be mid-70s when the last one comes out. Yeah.
I mean, there are directors that direct into their 80s and a couple. Has there been a director that's in his 90s? Oh,
Yeah,
it's Clint
Miller.
Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood. I thought Miller's in his 80s.
I have no
There's
idea.
definitely
Yeah.
directors in their 80s, but 90s was the question.
Eastwood,
Eastwood was in his 90s.
when he did Crime Macho, or he was maybe 89, but he's way up there.
Right. But yeah, he's getting there. Anyway, my number 5, The Abyss.
My number 5 is Avatar: The Way of Water.
My number 5 is True Lies. I like True Lies. It's got Arnold Schwarzenegger and a Harrier jet. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Jamie Lee Curtis. No one talks about her in that movie. She's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Great dancer. My number 4, despite the fact that I like the movie 1.5 stars more than Kyle does, is Avatar 2. Only 1 slot lower than his ranking of the movie.
My number 4 is The Abyss, and I'm pretty sure this is my first Cameron movie I ever saw. And it was pretty cool. A lot of underwater stuff, a lot of Ed Harris. You still have kind of Marine. I think it's Navy SEALs. So everything that you get from Cameron is in Abyss.
Yeah, the weird shiny
The weird shiny
face
water
CGI
creature.
tube. Yeah.
Yeah, which becomes the T-1000 a couple years later.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, my number 4 is Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
Nice.
Little low, but not as low as Terminator.
That's true.
My number 3 is Aliens from 1986. Love it. Favorite Aliens movie.
My number 3 is also Aliens. Second favorite Aliens movie.
It's my 3rd favorite Aliens movie, but it's really good.
You just have unjustified love for Alien 3.
I can justify it. My number 3 is The Terminator, which I like better than Terminator 2. I think The Terminator is a lot of fun.
I agree with your sentiment.
I agree too. I like that movie, but
The Terminator?
it's not Terminator 2.
I mean,
that's for
you
sure.
like it as much as I like Avatar Way of Water. So that doesn't make me feel very good.
I like it less. My number 2 is Titanic. Love it.
Titanic?
Titanic.
My number 2 is Terminator 2 because that's the number 2 in it. So it feels proper to be right there.
Nice. My number 2 is Avatar: The Way of Water.
My number 1 is T2 Judgment Day. Of course. The masterpiece.
I mean, it would be a masterpiece if Cameron didn't really hit out the park on his first go, and that's with Terminator.
It's insane. You guys are
Insane.
the only people I've ever heard say that Terminator 1 is better than Terminator 2.
Terminator 1 is better than Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Stand by.
Kyle and I relatively recently rewatched these movies together, Terminator and Terminator 2.
Yep.
And I think we both had to admit to ourselves that Terminator was the better, more fun movie.
Oh, it
No,
was not
not
a
a
hard thing to
chance.
admit. I like Terminator better. I think it's more of it's a horror movie, right? It's an action movie shot like a horror movie. Schwarzenegger is a humorless, unstoppable machine. There's no one-liners. I mean, like, I'll be back is the closest you get. When he's in that police station, terrifying. The whole movie he's just a force to be reckoned with. And then Terminator 2 is super fun, super well done, great graphics. It is like a fun, big budget blockbuster, but it doesn't have just like that degree of severity that you get from Terminator.
Nope.
James is speechless. I've broken.
I'm not
James.
speechless.
Is it my turn for
Yeah,
number
what's your
one,
number
or
one?
Kyle?
I don't understand how Zach gives Avatar, like, all the reasons why you like Way of Water over Avatar are the reasons why you should like Terminator 2 over Terminator. It's like a similar story, but they complicated all the characters and they amped everything up. They made it better. Yeah. It's the exact same reason
Well,
you like Way of Water.
I agree, except I watched Avatar this week and then I watched Avatar 2
Mhm.
and I liked Avatar 2 way better.
Mhm.
And I watched Terminator and then Terminator 2 within the same week and I like Terminator better.
Yeah.
So just got to go with what you like better.
You're wrong.
I am wrong. My number 1
Yes.
is The Abyss. The Abyss is so good.
It is
It's like a
good.
claustrophobic action movie underwater. No one's going to do a better underwater thriller than The Abyss. It's so good. And Ed Harris is amazing. And I forget the actress's name, but she's awesome.
Yeah, I can't remember who was in that movie.
And you got these really, I mean, it's very hard to do a creative alien.
Mhm.
Like, there's basically like 6 alien tropes, and every movie tries to get away from them, but they always have the insectoid, they always have the, but this has a completely unique alien.
Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Mastrantonio.
Wow. When he gets away from the mic, you can't hear him at all.
Oh, really?
I
You
know.
can hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
well, that's
'cause it's
that's a good quality mic there.
The tighter, I don't know,
Mary
speech area.
Elizabeth Mastrantonio. I don't know how to say that last name.
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Oh, don't twiddle me on that one. You try and say her last name.
You got chiweteled.
I feel like okay,
James, keep stringing these.
She-
more and more.
one, she plays Tony's sister in Scarface. That's that same actress.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
And I think I need to re-record all these now at the quality mic, because now people are gonna be like, well, that's definitely not Kyle saying it. That sounds so much different. So we should just do a bunch of like wonders. I'll just like string them all out, and you can save
Wouldn't
them.
you prefer if people didn't think it was you?
There is something funny about listening to the podcast and like I'm talking and then a soundbite of me talk comes up, and it really sometimes sounds like I said it live and it's not a soundbite. So
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Nothing too controversial there, I would say, for the most part.
I'm not bothered by the fact that The Abyss is your number 1. I'm way more
Me neither.
bothered by the fact that Terminator is James' number 9.
It's my number 8. Piranha 2 is
Sorry,
number
you're
9
number
because I
8.
haven't seen
Like,
it.
Behind Avatar. You like Avatar more than Terminator.
Yes. It's probably due for a rewatch. I think I've seen it 3 times in my life, but the last time was 20 years ago. So it's probably due. What I remember most about it is that it felt like a low budget movie from the 80s, which it is. And so maybe 20 years on, I'll have a different perspective. I'll have more of an appreciation for its low budget 80s-ness, but it felt cheesy to me in comparison to Terminator 2. Again, I need to rewatch it. It's been 20 years.
I wonder if there's a direct relationship between what James gives a star rating and the budget of a movie.
No. Why
Like,
would why would that matter?
looks great. Transformers looks amazing. 4.5 stars.
Please. Go look up what I gave Transformers movies and tell me that.
No, I'm going to imagine because it's all flashy lights, you give it 4.5 stars. You like
No.
the glitz.
Absolutely not. In fact, go to my letterbox, rank by star rating, and I guarantee you there's a lot of high budget stuff on there and there's a lot of really low budget stuff on there too. It's a mix.
But I'd rather say, James, people are talking about how much you love Transformers.
Look, the problem isn't the budget, okay? I didn't give Way of Water 5 stars because it looked good. I gave it 5 stars because it looked good and the story was interesting to me. That's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. I don't know what else to say.
Oh, and everyone knows once Stone Cold Steve Austin comes up, it's time to wrap up the podcast.
Conversation over. Yeah.
Conversation over. Exactly.
Thank you for joining us for this episode 561 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, you can always send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. REEL with a S on the end. You could also find this podcast on YouTube. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/cinereelists. Leave us an Apple Podcast review or follow us on social media on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or Facebook @Cinereelists, or you could follow me, my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account @YoJRB.
You can follow me on Mastodon or no, I'm just kidding. You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shabin.
You can find me on Letterboxd at PeterSKB, and if you want to talk about the band Mastodon, hit me up.
You guys aren't on Mastodon? I am.
No, I'm not on Mastodon.
I'm on Mastodon.
I'm not going to add more social media to my life.
I mean,
How is it over there?
more interaction, I would say. So right now it just cross posts all my tweets. But I get notifications when people like things or comment and stuff like that. And they're doing it far more over on Mastodon than my followers on Twitter do. Now, I only have like 7 people following me over on Mastodon. And those 7, I guess, are highly engaged.
Highly engaged followers.
and I've left because there's like, I have 500 followers on Twitter. But the vast majority of them, I don't even think use Twitter anymore. So...
I
next,
just don't like that they call posts toots.
I hate that too, but I also hated the word tweet when I first heard it. So, but toot is worse than tweet in my opinion. Anyway, next week we will be talking the film The Banshees of Inisherin. I think that's how you pronounce it. You can pre-watch this on HBO Max. It's the Colin Farrell and what's the other guy's name? Brendan Gleeson film.
Oh, it's not Colin. Oh, okay. I thought it was Colin Firth.
No, it's Colin Farrell.
Yes.
Wait, is it Will Ferrell in the Brendan Gleeson, famous Irish actor?
Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
So
With
yeah,
the Neptunes backing him up?
For sure. I wish that would have been a totally different movie. So yeah, if you want to pre-watch that for next week. We'll see you then. Keep it Cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.